Welcome back to another episode of the MonsterCast podcast, where the only sure thing isn't death and taxes. I'm your co-host, Mason Paul. Along with me is Cameron Miguez. How was your weekend in Bolivar? I know we got to do a little bit of a preview there before we did our the show that weekend, but how did it go for you?
Well, Mason, since we just talked about this Sunday, I'll repeat everything I said. Good show and good everything. So, yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course.
Yeah, no, we already talked about that, Mason. I'm not talking about it again. Living in the past. Talk about the future. Future, not past.
Well, it's the only reason I even brought up our little intro today, because actually Monster Jam did something big here. Not to try to yank your tail there, but they actually did a whole-on, I guess, membership thing where you can actually go back and watch a bunch of old episodes. So a buddy of mine gave me a link, and we've been watching bunch of old, like, 2000 Monster Truck events, so that was a cool thing to look back on.
Yeah, I'm back watching shows back before you were born.
Let's say, hey.
Sad thing is I was probably at some of those shows.
You probably were. I'm just catching up on history I wasn't around to see at the time.
Oh, that's good. That's good. You ought to know something about the industry you're in, but that's good. No, yeah, that's cool. It's cool they're doing something, keep people interested, keep people watching, and excuse me. Wow. So we got some shows coming up this weekend. I know Jim and Dawn are up in New Hampshire doing a show this weekend for a guy. My brother is actually out in Hays, Kansas with Tim Jones, and I believe I know Dylan Finley will be there doing a fair out there. Then we were doing a show in Van Buren, Arkansas. It's actually outside of Fort Smith. And I'll have Jimmy's B team and Throttle Monsters B team, Too Tall and Dawson, who, to go back in the past, all four trucks did a great job last week in Bolivar. So see how they do in Van Buren. Too Tall and Austin are kind of in a 1-to-1 tie on victories, and they shared freestyle. So now they got to come tie break everything up. Any shows I missed going on this weekend there, Mason?
No, you covered all the ones I was aware of.
Okay. Also, Friday night, I plan on probably going live again from the track. This time, hopefully, I'll go a little earlier so I don't interfere with guys out west. And hopefully, they're not interviewing a driver that's at the show so I don't interrupt right in the middle of their podcast. But, yeah, so – with that said, anything else anybody needs to know about there, Spanky?
Pretty sure we covered all we need to do news-wise coming up this weekend.
Okay. Well, now that we're done with the news, let's go to our special guest, Mr. Larry Schwinn.
All right.
What's going on, Mr. Slim?
Oh, not a whole lot. How are you guys doing?
Good. Did you ever actually finish a wheelie, or did you just stuff them all and stand up there and climb out and leave every time?
No, sometimes I finished it. I try to change it up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, before we get into the whole monster truck career thing, what's COVID-19 shutdown, 2020 lockdown, shelter in place been like for the Schwim family?
It's actually not been bad. I've been pretty much working every day, driving a dump truck, and my wife's pretty much been working from home. She's starting to get back to her normal work, and but other than that, just trying to deal with all the shutdowns, of everything else besides work, and just life in general.
Well, so we have a segment on here before we get too far into it with a young man by the name of Christopher Allen and the Allen family, Jim and Carol. And we do where we have the fun facts of the week about our guests. So, Mason, let's see
I can't wait.
let's see what Christopher has to say about Larry.
Hi, Monster Truck fans. Christopher Allen, the Monster Truck Guru, has returned for another rendition of Monster Truck Fact of the Week. This episode is about Team Bigfoot standout Larry Swim. Larry started in the sport by befriending Guy Wood and learning how the monster trucks work from a great teacher. From there, Larry drove various trucks for Paul Schaefer, just a few being Monster Patrol, Scorpion King, Carolina Crusher, and 29 Kid Rock. After a brief hiatus from the sport, Larry picked up the phone one day in 2008 and heard Dan Runty's voice, informing Larry that the original monster truck team was hiring. Larry seized the opportunity and went on to represent Team Bigfoot enormously well all over the U.S. and internationally. Up until his retirement in 2019, Larry performed in big races like the Charlotte Back to School Bash, Salt Lake City's Clash of the Titans, raced in prestigious series like the Toughest Monster Truck Tour and Four-Wheel Jamborees, and even debuted Bigfoot 19 in Aruba, the first ever Bigfoot truck to make its public performance debut overseas. In 2017, Larry was the driver at the forefront of the DVD Bigfoot King of Monster Trucks 2, a modern sequel to the famous VHS tape from 1988. Over the course of the DVD, Larry takes host Chris Parrish and the audience into the rig, through the media hour, finally to and throughout the event. And that does it for another episode of Monster Truck Fact of the Week, fans. For loads of superb Monster Truck Show coverage content, please like Monster Truckin' with Jim and Chris on Facebook and Instagram. Please like this page for new episodes, and remember, Monster Trucks forever!
Well, shit. What else we got to talk about?
I don't know. I think he nailed it all. So,
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Yeah. Good time. He did call you a standout, so that's pretty special.
Well, just because he called me a standout, I don't know if it was a good thing, but thanks, Christopher. It was always good seeing him and his family, and he's very knowledgeable and he's a good guy. And I remember him. Like he said, I've actually been around monster trucks since the mid '80s and started driving in 2000. So I've seen a lot of fans and fans like Christopher grow up, and it's been pretty cool. And that's probably one of the things I'll miss about all of it. But hey, like I said, I've talked to Bigfoot, and they need a fill-in driver. I'm here, and so you never know. You might see me around, so you're not done with me all the way yet.
Well, so let's go back to the beginning. What got you started into this? Were you just a fan trying to get into it, or you just happen to know somebody? How did it work at the beginning?
Actually, in the mid '80s, I went to school with Kelly Smith, which was Marvin Smith's daughter. We hung around the same people, and everybody knows he had Crimson Giant and several other trucks. And I was that kid that, I was a fan of anything that had a motor, and I would hang out. And I guess he figured this kid's going to be here, I might as well make him be peaceful. So I, started helping him in evenings and everything here and there. And then my mom let me go to a couple shows with him. And, that's where I met Guy Wood, and he actually close to where I lived. And about that time, Marvin got out of the trucks and went to work for Guy part-time. And I guess now it's kind of late to, I guess it doesn't matter now is what I'm trying to say, but Guy was supposed to go drive one of Paul Schaefer's trucks, and something came up. So he's like, "Hey, you want to go drive?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah." And he said, "Well, I told him you've driven before, so don't tell him otherwise." So he flew me to Cottage Grove, Oregon, and me and Brian Womack, he flew out there, put tires on the trucks. He had a truck driver take him out there, put tires on the truck, drove it around a parking lot to kind of get a feel for the rear steer, and to the finals Friday night, went to the finals Saturday night. They added a Sunday show, and I won. Now, it doesn't matter that Brian broke a rear axle, but, hey, a win's a win.
Take it where you can get them.
So, basically went from there. Paul called me a couple times, offered me a show here and there, and finally offered me a full-time job. So it all took off from there, and it's been a wild ride, that's for sure.
Well, so now you go work for Paul Schaefer, and I mean that's a notable name. I mean, he not only guy came in as a driver and an owner, but then he kind of started buying up all the other identities for everybody else, and so you got to climb behind the wheel of some, not only good trucks but also popular names, such like Carolina Crusher. I mean, before getting to Bigfoot, how cool is that to represent some of these names?
It was awesome. Like I said, when he flew me to Cottage Grove, Oregon, the first I ever drove was Tonka. And it was actually, I think it was Paul's first rear engine Monster Patrol truck. And I drove the most for him was actually Schaefer's last barefoot truck that he built. And that was awesome. I pretty much drove all of them. I mean, I drove Boogie Van, the truck that's strong enough for a man but made for a woman. Wild Thing. Like I said, I drove the Kid Rock truck, the Scorpion King, Mummy Returns. I mean, it goes on and on. I drove a lot of different trucks, so it was quite the experience, and the handling of the different trucks. And some of them were really hard to see, like Wild Thing. But it was all fun, and it doesn't matter what truck you're driving. There's always fans out there that love that truck. So that's the cool part about it.
Well, so now you run with him for a while, and then you get the call to go drive for the truck. I mean, how did that all come about?
Actually, I was, I'd been off the road for a few years, driving, driving, here and there for people. And I was actually working for Coca-Cola at the time, delivering soda. And Dan called me just kind of out of the blue. It wasn't very long after Dave Hardy had passed. And he said, "Hey, you're still interested in driving. You need to make a call, dude." And I'm like, "Okay." So talked to my wife, and she's like, go talk to him. And went and talked, and it was just unbelievable. I mean, to have the company that started it all, Bob Chandler started in the industry, and to have them call and, even know my name. I mean, whether it was good or bad, they knew my name. So that was pretty humbling, I guess. And, I still can't believe it. And it's been a wild ride. I made a lot of good friends at Bigfoot, and, whether they like it or not, I'm part of the extended family. And, Bob and Marilyn, and Bob and Ann Trent, everybody, friends, whether they, like I said, want to admit it or not, it's pretty awesome experience.
Well, now a question I've never asked before, because I've never been.
Of course you haven't.
Well, no, just never been. But talk about the first show. I mean, you're sitting there, and I mean, we all grew up loving Bigfoot. I mean, it's still one of my favorite trucks today. You get to the first show with that truck and you're sitting there behind the seat, you're sitting there behind the wheel, not behind the seat, but behind the wheel, and you're in Bigfoot.
If you're behind the seat, you're in the wrong spot.
Yeah, you're sitting behind the seat on the motor trying to figure out how the hell you're going to steer the truck. Hey, I never said I was any good at this shit, okay? I just do this because nothing else to do.
Oh, well, nobody told me that, so my bad.
Yeah, my bad. Sorry, I thought that was in the contract with them. But no, I mean, talk about you. Like I said, you're behind Bigfoot. You're behind the wheel of Bigfoot for the first time. Representing Bigfoot. I mean, what did that feel like? Was the pressure there, or was this like, oh my god, is this so damn cool? Or
even more so when I first started. I started doing Firestone displays and car crushes, and that was pretty intense because everybody knows Firestone is a huge sponsor for Bigfoot, and they've been around forever. So they send me to represent, Bigfoot and Firestone. So that was pretty intimidating, go to these stores. And, I've been around monster trucks for a long time. We won't talk about that, but
you're old.
So yeah, exactly. Thanks for reminding me.
You're welcome.
Good announcer. But yeah, I go and do all these displays and car crushes, and that was crazy in itself. And then, like you said, you go to a show and you're in a Bigfoot truck. The fans expect you to perform top notch. All the other drivers have an X on your back because they want to say, I went home and beat Bigfoot. And I'm like, I don't want to be that guy, but you can't win them all, unfortunately. So you're going to get beat, but you still don't want that. And, you're strapped in and getting ready to go out for intros. And it's like, I'm really doing this. And it's quite the feeling. And, it's been a highlight for sure.
Well, so now Bigfoot definitely has its pecking order as far as their drivers, kind of the level of the drivers. And for many, many years, you had Andy Brass, and then you had Dan Runte, and that's kind of where you fell in, was right behind Dan Runte. Was the goal to always eventually take that place as being the number one top guy, or were you just happy to be there?
You know what? I never thought of myself as the top guy. I just thought of myself as another driver. And I never even thought of myself on the same level as Andy Brass and Dan Runte or Jim Kramer, any of those guys. And I just was out there to have fun and put on a good show for the fans and, see the smiles on all those kids of all ages faces. And, that was my job. And that was, people would come up to me all the time and say, oh, you're the number one driver. I'm like, no, I'm a driver of Bigfoot. And, that's that. We're all equals. We're all drivers. And, I never thought of myself above anybody. That's just how it is.
Well, now for a lot of those that don't know, you actually got hurt quite a few years ago. You actually, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I think you broke your back at one point, didn't you?
Yeah. Actually, it was August 1st, 2010. Out in Salina, Kansas, or not Salina, Kansas, Salinas, California. Took a big jump in Bigfoot 14 and actually shattered my L1 vertebrae. That was before we got the custom seats. It was basically the one size fits all kind of seat, and just took a hard, crazy landing, flat landed, and broke the bottom of the seat, shattered my L1 vertebrae, and it was. I rolled off the track and pulled off and shut the truck off, and they came running up and said, "What's wrong?" And it was one of the small woods, and he said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "My back." And then later that night, early morning in the hospital, I said, "How'd you know?" And he said, "You didn't wave to the fans. You always wave to the fans." So, it was, yeah. And a lot of people thought I was done. And I'm like, I've got to try. That's what I do. And it was kind of scary at first. The first show back, actually, Jim Kramer went with me to Grand Island, Nebraska, matter of fact. And like I said, the doctor said, "Oh, you should be fine." And so I'm like, well, I got to try. And, it was good. And, here we are. Still went many years later, and hopefully made some other fans happy.
Well, I got to thank you for breaking your back, because I got to do a show when my brother was actually driving for you. He went and filled in for you. And I did a show. I was with John Zimmer crewing, and Jim Kramer came along with my brother to help my brother out. So I got to hang out with Jim Kramer for the weekend, which is probably one of the coolest goddamn weekends I ever had in monster truck business.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate you sacrificing yourself for the betterment of me.
Hey, anything I can do for you, buddy.
Well,
yeah,
now
Jim Kramer, he's a great guy, and that was another cool thing. I started in July 2008, and beginning of first quarter 2009, we did the Checkered Flag Productions Bad Boy Bigfoot, and Jim actually went and crewed for me at all those shows. So he's a blast to be around, great help, full of knowledge and full of other things that we can't say on the show. But yeah, that's it. But yeah, it was good times, and that there was many times I'd be strapped in the truck and look over and Jim's there, and I'm like, how crazy is this that Jim Kramer is here crewing for me? So yeah, it's like I said, it's been quite the rush and quite the ride, and some days I still look back and pinch myself and can't believe it.
Well, I mean, I think honestly, even as much trash as we all talk, we all have them moments. But
yeah,
I'd like to talk about, because you're the first Bigfoot driver we've had on, so I'm kind of curious about Bigfoot, the organization itself. I mean, what was their approach with you guys on how you guys were to go do the shows? I mean, I know how a lot of team owners are, where it's, a guy like Jimmy Cretin or Tim Mente, or, that just own the trucks. But Bigfoot was a different entity, for one, being the original, but also being a corporation, more of a business, not just a family-owned deal, to an extent.
right.
What was the approach with you guys on how to go do the shows and how you should perform every week?
Basically what they told me is go out there and drive the truck. Don't worry about breaking things. Just don't do something to hurt yourself. And, there was times that they would be at a show and, the body panels would be flying off, and, they'd come up after the show and be like, "Oh my gosh, that was cool." Matter of fact, one of the open houses in Hazelwood, they had a van stack, and I stood it straight up and down, ripped the bed sides and tailgate off, and Jim Kramer actually come over at me. "What are you doing? This is a free thing. This is just a car crush, it's an open house." And Bob Trent come over and he said, "Dude, that was cool. The sides are already ripped off. Do it again." So yeah, they never told me not to drive the truck. They've always told me the truck can be fixed. Don't do anything intentional. Don't try to tear it up. But and that was another thing. You'd get certain people that, "Oh, well, it must be nice. You don't own your truck. You don't have to worry about tearing it up." I never looked at it that way. I always treated it like it was my own. And yeah, I didn't per se have to pay the bills on it, but I had to work on the truck. So, I always treated it like it was my own. I was always raised, my mom always taught me, take care of your stuff, but take care of somebody else's stuff better than you would your own. And, I know some of the videos you kind of showed don't always show that, but that's the way I thought.
Yeah, but that was a small window into a very long career. But so now
go to commercial.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and flip over to commercial. That way you can answer the phone, and Bob's calling right now. Well, so now talk a little bit about, did you have a lot of say in how your truck was set up, or was it pretty much just here, this is what we're giving you, go run it? Did you have?
They had a, say a general setup, but you were always free to, you know, if you don't like this, let's change it. You know, I mean, of course, yeah, this chassis got a bend in it, but let's get a new chassis. You know, it wasn't nothing like that. But yeah, I mean, shock wise, yeah, they were always open. You know, if you want to try a different setup, try it. You know, but if it was something that they thought, you know, through the years of their experience, that ain't going to work. You're going to hurt yourself. No, that's a bad idea. But I'm old, so I don't, you know, remember them say any of that. But anytime I had an idea, you know, let's try this, or, you know, because even driver wise, you know, when I was in, you know, after Dan got out of 18 and went into 21, and I took over 18, I changed the shocks a little bit, you know, because every driver drives different.
Right.
I went to 21 after Dan retired. I changed the shocks a little bit, you know. You know, they were always, you know, make yourself comfortable in the, make it part of you. And like I said, they weren't opposed to trucks getting tore up because they know, you know, it's Bigfoot. You're out there to perform, and that's what people expect. And sometimes things get tore up. They just didn't want you to do something uncomfortable to you, for you, that you thought this is a bad idea. You know, these people are expecting me to do this, but I don't feel comfortable. Well, don't do it. And that's what they always said to everybody. And, you know, that's one of the cool things, you know, they give you free reign, but then they tell you, okay, don't hurt yourself. But, you know, don't let somebody pressure you into doing something that you're not comfortable with.
Don't give into the peer pressure.
Right.
And don't get in vans with strangers.
Oh, now you tell me.
Well, so now let's fast forward to 2019 and you decide to retire. How hard of a decision was that? I mean, you were the man.
You know, it was tough, but my mom was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer December 1st of 2018. And that was right after she was diagnosed. I had surgery on my knee. And so I was out for a few months, and actually got to go to, sorry.
It's too much. We don't need to talk about it.
No, it's all good. Go to some of her chemo appointments and decided I need to be with my mom, and talked to my wife, and she said, whatever you think. And so I decided it was time, and I'm glad I did. She passed away in October of this past year, so I spent a lot of quality time with her.
Yeah, our heart goes out to you, man. I'm right there with you. Go ahead. Take a minute, brother. Take a minute.
Yeah, you know, I miss her every day, but I'm glad I did what I did. I miss the fans, everybody at Bigfoot, all the great sponsors, and but I got to spend a lot of quality time with my mom, and that's what it's about, is family. And you know, Bigfoot was always about that.
Yeah. Tell her to plug it in. We'll wait.
Cameron said we'll wait.
I can't see, but I can hear really, really well.
What? I never knew that about you.
So when she tries whispering, battery's low. Well, all right. So I apologize. I didn't mean to bring up such a sensitive subject. It's not what I'm.
No, it's all good. I mean,
but it's awesome. I mean, like I said,
yeah.
You know,
Like I
feel
said,
me and Darren just went through the same thing with losing our dad this year,
yeah.
and it's one of the hardest things you can go through. And
yeah.
But it's nice when you can say goodbye, and that makes everything worth it there.
And
And so,
like I said, I'm glad I did it. I wouldn't change it for the world, but yeah, I mean, it was definitely tough to walk away. And, like I said, don't count me out. You may see me at a show somewhere, back on the road, here and there. And, I'm just everybody. And like I said, thanks for all the support with all the fans and sponsors, that have put up with me through the years, and a lot of kids I've watched grow up. So that's what it's about.
well, one of our big things on here is fan interaction. Let people come in here and ask you questions. So, Mason, what do we got for Mr. Larry Swim?
I'm just pulling up a few of these comments here, but I at least want to also make sure before we go on to these comments, like to also thank everybody, especially Lee Plato, Don Creedon for and tuning in, Brandon Budd. They were also giving him prayers during that time, just shortly time ago. But just letting you know that our fans, they're watching and they're feeling for you. But moving on with that, I want to make sure, because there's been a few comments from Levi and Christopher wondering how it was like to be driving in the SST series.
Oh, the SST series was actually pretty cool. I wish it would have taken off, because there were some crazy tracks. And yeah, I mean, you didn't freestyle. It was some cool long tracks. You actually put these trucks through the paces. Not that we didn't any time, but it was just completely different than anybody's ever seen. When you're in the LA Coliseum, doing a triple jump up the steps through the pedestals, and they're 14-foot wide, and you're in a 12-foot monster truck, and they say, just so you guys know, right before the show, they tell us, just so you guys know, there's not enough insurance to take out on this building, so don't hit it. No pressure there. And then you go around, you're like two trailer park girls, you go around the outside, and then you jump back down the step. That was pretty intense. So, the tracks were always different, dirt. Sometimes it was asphalt. Sometimes it was dirt and asphalt. But yeah, it was pretty crazy. The huge over and unders. Yeah, I mean, it was intense and a lot of fun. I wish it would have taken off, because it was, yeah.
Well, and you had a lot of good trucks doing that. I mean, you were there. My brother did actually with.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of good trucks in your brother and me.
Yeah, there was a lot of good trucks, and then you guys were also there with them.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there was Rick Swanson.
Well, actually, he's the one that got stuck on the uphill in the LA Coliseum.
Tell the story. Finish it. What now?
He went up the triple jump, and he got wedged in the turnstile things.
It probably not the truck. It wasn't even the truck, was it? It was just him got wedged, wasn't it?
And we're going to the second commercial. Thanks. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Like you said, it was a lot of good trucks, good drivers, and it was definitely challenging. But yeah, there was some crazy moments, and like always, that's what makes it exciting.
Yeah. What else you got, Mason?
Next question, Mason.
Talking about more event years, we have one from Katie Jensen Heskett asking, can you compare Back to School Bash in Charlotte to any of the other venues you've done?
Well, that's my little East Coast crew there. That's Aiden and Avery's mom. They're that Back to School Bash was pretty cool. That's another one that had a big track, used pretty much all of Charlotte Motor Speedway, dirt track. And they used school buses as part of the racing course. And then you had I think it was 60 or 80 foot gap over under. And it was pretty cool. But yeah, there was some other tracks, RMR out in Salt Lake City. That was a pretty neat track, huge figure 8.
I love that place.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Actually, when I first started driving for Paul, I went there that first year and actually won. So, but yeah, I mean, we try to have fun at all the tracks, no matter what they are. But yeah, there's several of them that are pretty big, and you're going fast, you're going big, and yeah, we always had fun out there. And tell the boys, Aiden and Avery, thanks for the help. Thank you guys for everything, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Now, did you truly enjoy the tracks that were a true driving course? I mean, like RMR, the true figure eight, your inside lane, your outside lane, back to inside lane. I mean, that was a driver's course, and I heard Charlotte's the same way. I mean, were those the tracks that was fun, where it wasn't just you in the truck, but you had to drive it to win it?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a team. Like I said, you can put a good driver in a bad truck, and he's going to win. You can put a good driver in a good truck, he's still not going to win. But if you've got good equipment, you're more confident in what you can do and what you can handle. So yeah, I always like those courses like that, where, like you said, you have to actually drive them. You're turning, and the straight line drags were always fun. And especially if you get 2 or 3 jumps, then yeah, you got to plan. Okay, I need to pedal it here, I need to gas it harder here. And so yeah, I mean, it was always something going on. Everybody, you always hear, oh man, I'd like to drive that truck. I just get in there and mash the gas and hold on. Well, you think that till like the 3rd or 4th time, you're used to it. But to think about it the 1st or 2nd time after you wad the truck up.
Yeah,
yeah, but you've actually, there's a thought process, and sometimes it works out good, and sometimes it doesn't work out so good. And even sometimes when it didn't work out so good, the fans loved it.
Show needed. Well, next question, Mason.
On it. Speaking on RMR, we actually have one from Jim Allen saying, what are your feelings about RMR in Salt Lake City, and any favorite memories? Because you definitely gave him some.
Oh, man. There was always good memories. What's that?
Here's the one time at the country bar.
Yeah, when Cameron was dancing with my wife. But anyway.
Show needed it.
Yep, right. But yeah, I mean, we always had fun. There was some, Ron Duncombe out there with the Monster Trucker. He's a super close friend, and that's where I met him at. And but yeah, like I said, that figure eight track there was the first year I went there. The first few years, they basically put like 30 cars in a big square in the middle of this track. And they're like, oh, this is what you're running on. I'm like, you do what? And, you're going through the corners, smoking the tires. The front inside tire is off the ground. And it's, probably I would have to say, out of all the tracks through the years, I mean, yeah, they've all got their moments, but that one was probably the most intense. We actually raced on the infield of the Bristol Motor Speedway too. And that one's kind of the same deal. It wasn't a figure eight. They always had something different, but you're on the middle of the asphalt, Bristol Motor Speedway.
Right.
Excuse me. And, you're smoking the tires, and those really stand out. But, we try to have fun at all the tracks. And, but yeah, and then they ended up doing where the finals were 2 rounds, not only 1, but 2. Not only do we have to do this once, but twice. You're wore out from going all these rounds in between and checking this and checking that and fueling and so. But yeah, it was pretty intense. We always look forward to seeing Jim and Christopher coming into the pits, and I can only imagine what you're laughing about over there. I need to take her out of the room. Can I get security?
Then time for another commercial break so we can remove the
Well, on a slight commercial break, Kelly Murphy Miguez wanted to let you know that Darren Miguez, Larry Swim, Ron Dunk, and Dan Runty make quite the combo, and we almost have half the party here because Darren's watching saying you are quite long-winded, and at least Ron was on a happy
That's what
note
he's
saying
laughing at.
he's happy to see you.
I sense your sarcasm.
I mean, I've been on here multiple times, and I will say it forever. I can't think of too many times that were more fun than after Saturday night of RMR. Everybody's exhausted, and everybody congregates over to the Bigfoot trailer. Somehow we come up with a bottle of something, and we listen to Grandpa Dunk start telling his stories up, dancing, jumping around, and I mean, one of the best storytellers in the world.
Oh, yes. Yes, he is. And, next time you see him or talk to him, you need to ask him about the tornado in Kansas.
Well, I'm actually planning on apparently Dunk has expressed interest in being on here. So in the next couple of weeks, Ron Duncan will be on here. So Mason, write that down.
And your brother says I'm long-winded.
Yeah, Mason, write that on your forehead. Ask Dunk about tornado.
Gotcha. Well, while he's still here, we have a question from Don Cretan saying, Larry, have you ever heard the story of Ron Dunk's first time driving a monster truck?
Oh, yes. I was actually there.
No, but nobody's going to tell it, though, are they?
Well, because if I tell it, it's only going to take away from when Ron tells it. So
yeah, it's a good
write that
story.
on your forehead too, Mason.
Yeah.
All I'm going to say in my best Ron Duncan impression, Lair, I could see the curvature of the earth. So keep that in mind, Mason.
Got a lot to write on my forehead today.
And tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong.
That was perfect.
He's laughing. I'm looking at the comments. You definitely got him there. See what
Next question.
we got a few from VJ Johnson. He's saying Larry is a great teammate. He just got tired of putting the wing on the back of it.
Oh yeah, he's got room to talk.
Oh yeah,
on his truck.
And his little follow-up to that was, does Larry still dance in cages?
No, not anymore.
Pray tell.
Huh?
Oh no, pray tell. We see on here we are into that hard-hitting information, and we have to get to the bottom of every situation. And so, if you dance in a cage, whether it be voluntary or you were forced, we must know the statute of limitations has not been up.
Well,
So-
it was this incident.
And
We were actually at a little display in Vandalia, Illinois, and these people owned a bar, and there was this girl, and I ended up dancing in this cage. The bar was called Cages, and next thing you know, a few years later, I married her.
it'll happen.
Stupid cages. Just
Wow.
kidding.
Mhm.
He's really not. Just tell her.
Back to commercial.
Tell her to come on camera and blink twice if she needs help because of the cage thing, or if she's in the cage now. All right, next question.
For those that are listening on Spotify, there were 2 blinks.
Oh, thanks, Mason. You're so helpful.
You know,
So helpful,
people-
Mason. Next question.
All right, hey, we'll bring it with Bradley Shaw, one of the guys actually from Crush This, and actually helped work on the Bad Boy 3 body. He
Oh
was
my
wondering, he was making sure it answered, but make sure it brought up. He was wondering, what was the story behind crossing his name out with tape and putting your name in there? But he wanted to thank you for making his dream come true for him.
That was not me.
And it's not bad enough that Brad has to tell that story every single episode of his podcast. Now he's got to come on mine and tell the goddamn story too.
They have to get it.
Now you're
Everybody.
wrecking Cameron's dream, Brad.
Yeah. Damn it, Brad.
I didn't cross out your name. That's above my pay grade. I don't know how it happened. It was probably a computer glitch. It's probably some podcast.
Not a.
Probably
We got
one of them graphic competitors.
Right.
See,
Next question.
we got one from Dawson Reyes saying, "How was first quarter with the battle against Bill Payne in 2014?"
Bill who?
Some guy from out west somewhere.
It was always fun. Bill. We all know Bill's likes to talk, and but we always had fun there in the beginning. It was kind of a battle, but that's what kept it interesting. And we'd go out for a wheelie contest, and they'd say 2 hits, and he'd go out and do 47. Finally, after a while, everybody back at Bigfoot, was like, you know what? If you go out before him, do it. And Lauren would always tell me if I went out before him and he made more than 2 hits or whatever, she'd get a couple extra clicks in her seatbelts because she knew he was going to do something even crazier. And, we had a lot of fun. It was kept it interesting because, when you're driving a go-kart with 66-inch tires, it'll wheelie off of a piece of
cigarette.
But, Bill and Lorna are always, they're good friends, and I haven't talked to them in a long time. So if you're listening, don't bother calling. But no, we had a lot of fun and tore up a lot of stuff. Mostly him. He had, only thing I can say is, I'm not going to say who had more rollovers, but he had more rollovers than intros. So
Bill's had more rollovers than a damn roly-poly. I mean, come on. Christ. Only guy I know that'll go through a tank of fuel in wheelie contest.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've seen him do it.
Oh, yeah. Sit out there and do wheelies till she sputters.
Yep.
Well, Bob Trent's definitely saying Bill was scared of you, so and that's why you had to bring that hard.
Well, I don't know about that. I just made him work for it even harder, or try to work for it anyway.
Just spend his money.
Got one from Gabriel Lee here saying, "What was your favorite foot to drive?"
The right one.
All the trucks were great. Definitely, I go back and forth between 19 and 21. They both handled awesome.
We're not talking about dating. We're talking about monster trucks.
Hey.
Oh, sorry. I forgot. I thought you made her leave.
Probably the favorite one to drive, and I never jumped anything with it, was Bigfoot 1. That's the truck that started it all. And to be able to drive that truck was, it needs no words. The only thing I was mad about was that Stacy David had the show. He came to the shop years ago, and they wanted me to take it out in the snow and do donuts in Bigfoot 1. I'm like, yes. And then because he ran out of time. So, and then Bob Trent wouldn't let me do donuts by myself. So
that's another one of my coolest memories is when Kyle Doyle was working for Foot. I came by the shop. I was in St. Louis. Me and my wife were in St. Louis for the weekend, and we swung by, and Kyle took us out back, and there was one sitting in the garage.
We don't need to hear this.
Huh?
I said we don't need to hear this.
Oh well, no, nothing bad, but just the fact that I got to stand right by one in the shop, hidden away, and then Kyle say, "Hey Bob, come here, come meet somebody," and here comes Bob Chandler. So now I'm standing within 4 feet of Bigfoot 1 and Bob Chandler. And, of course, I got a new phone after that, and the one set of pictures that did not transfer are those.
Well, it sounds like you need to come back to Pacific now.
I need to. I need to make a trip over there again. But now there's nobody there that likes me because you were all I had.
Oh,
And now
nobody told him.
I was stretching it by saying you liked me.
I was going to say you haven't told him yet, Mason.
I saw the.
I already ran out of notes up here, so I kind of forgot that one.
Oh boy.
We did most of the stuff in that pre-interview, and then already ran out. All
Next
right.
question.
Okay.
Next
This was
question.
not much of a question, but it is a fan message. I want to make sure this was brought up. It's from Tina Jones Smith, making sure she was letting you know that Scotty misses his favorite driver and was saying, "Hey Larry, ... on nothing. See you later, and thanks for coming."
Hey, Scotty, you like it? Bang. Yeah, you know, Scotty and Tina and Doug and Dustin. You know, Scotty has been a longtime fan. You know, he's loved Bigfoot for years, and you know, for some reason, I don't know if it might have been this that, you know, he kind of got drawn to me, and we became buds and clicked, and we had a lot of fun. Actually, you can't see it, but right over there on my couch is a blanket that Scotty and Tina had made for me with Scotty and I on there, and my wife Susan is in one of the pictures too. And you know, we always had a lot of fun. And you know, remember, Scotty, what happens on the golf cart stays on the golf cart
Until it flips over.
Well, that wasn't my story. That was somebody else's story, but what I know about it is what happens on the golf cart stays on the golf cart. They won't even tell me. I guess because I wasn't on the golf cart, she said.
Yeah, you weren't on the golf cart, so you don't get to know about it. All right, Mason, you just got a couple more for him. We're getting late. He's getting tired. I can see his eyes starting to droop.
Yeah, we do have a couple more left right here. One from Ron. One more time here. He's saying, "What about the bad corn dog Susan got?"
Come on. This is not the Susan Swim Show.
Oh boy. Are we going to elaborate on that,
I
huh?
don't.
Susan, tell the story.
Well, I probably.
She has to tell the story now. Apparently, she's the one that caused it. So tell her she has to tell the story.
He said you have to tell the story. I don't even. I think it might have been Poplar Bluff,
It was
Missouri,
Poplar Bluff, yeah.
when I was working for Paul. And after the show,
I was hungry.
she was hungry and thirsty, and she, you know, after the show, the concessions gave all the drivers and families, you know, the leftover food they had. She had a corn dog, and might have had an adult beverage or 47. She got sick back at the room and said, "Oh, I think I had a bad corn dog." And I said, "Oh, it was the corn dog? It wasn't the 47 beers?" So then after that, we started calling her.
Yes.
Tell him, baby. I'm a dorkfish. What's a corn dog doing here swimming under the ocean? You know me, I love them corn dogs. Anyway, next question.
Now to a
All right,
course.
Yep. Now our commercials. Anyways,
Oh.
we're going to close it on out here with our questions with Alan Weaver saying, "What was it like knowing that you were the last foot driver to race a certain black and green truck, not naming names?"
That was pretty cool. You know, we didn't get to race them a whole lot. But you know, the few shows I did get to race those guys.
You can say Grave Digger. It's not a big deal.
Well, Mason said we don't say it.
Tell Mason to shut up.
I'm right here.
Mason, Cameron said,
Yeah.
shut up.
Okay,
Truck,
well,
truck
I didn't
lives,
say it.
truck lives matter. We talk about everybody on here.
Make another note, Mason. Cameron told you to shut up again. But yeah, you know, it's always fun. I just wish that they could have all came to terms. Because, Bigfoot was always trying to run with them at shows, and they just, wouldn't have it. I don't know for what reason. It's none of my business, but I think the fans, would love to see that again. And
Oh yeah.
happens, I'd love to come back and do that. I might have been the last one to race them, and I'd like, if it happens again, I want to be the first. So give me a call.
You heard it here first, folks. Bigfoot goes to Monster Jam. Larry's driving. Got one more there, Mason?
I think that was all that last came in. Well, Darren and Ron were just saying that they're dying right now on the floor because we're pretty much killing them. Great laugh and great stories. You usually like to close out every podcast out with what was or what is still to this day your favorite road story. Can be anything that's, we can say on the air, but anything from the past or, from latest times. But is there one story that's like near and dear to your heart that comes to mind?
Like I said, I've met a lot of great fans. I've actually had two kids. My little buddy, Aiden, he actually dressed up as me for Halloween. And then
That's an ugly goddamn costume.
I know, right?
Right.
And I've had two kids dress up as me for Halloween. I met a lot of great fans. Like I said, Scotty, Jared, and thousands of kids, young and old, that I guess I left impressions on, and they left impressions on me that, through the years, it's been pretty cool. But probably the one that I would say the memory that stands out the most, and let me readjust my thing here. I don't know if you can see this picture right here.
No, I can't see it.
That was in 2016. Summit Racing Equipment took myself, Dan, and some of the NHRA guys overseas to visit the troops, and Bigfoot actually sent a truck over there. We went to Kuwait, and I didn't even get to do it, but I was there for it, and it was pretty cool. Very inspiring.
Was that part of a USO deal?
Yes. They took a truck. We visited several different bases, and Dan actually did 2 car crushes for our military men and women overseas. And like I said, I've got to do some pretty cool stuff, but that one takes the cake.
Yeah, that would be amazing. That would honestly be amazing.
There was not only a lot of behind the scenes people for Summit Racing Equipment, but our men and women that are over there fighting, and we got to do a lot of cool things behind the scenes, see stuff, right, stuff that not your everyday person sees or hears, and some of it probably for good reason.
Right.
It was very, very inspiring to me, and it's, I'm glad I got to be a part of it. And like I said, Dan drove, did crushes in Bigfoot.
Are we losing him?
Yeah, I think he's had a little connection error right there.
Give him a sec till you come back on. We didn't get a chance to introduce our brand new segment.
Right.
Damn it.
Well, hopefully he comes back. We could have it, but otherwise, still, it's been great otherwise.
Yeah. And Dunk, if you're still watching, dude, I do want to have you on here in a couple weeks. I just got a couple more that I'm working on, but you're definitely on the short list to be on here. So, all right. Well, he's not coming back in, bud.
No, he just dropped off there.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up with that. If for whatever reason, if he goes back and watch this, I want to thank Larry for being on. It's a great episode. A lot of good stories, a lot of good stuff coming in with the guy, my brother and Kelly, and and Dunk and Dawn chiming in. It's an interesting group when that group gets together. But I want to thank everybody for watching. Mason, you got some sponsor stuff to take care of there, homie?
Yep. Of course, we have our own Florida Sauce Slingers' own Spur Hot Sauce. They're a Florida-based business where the Southwest meets the Southeast in a clash of hot and tangy flavors. Next time you want to spice up your next meal, think of Spur Hot Sauce. Make sure to contact them on Facebook and or Instagram and tell them MonsterCast sent you. Of course, we also have I'm going to finish up with our read here, but we just got Swim back on. But we also still have a Monster Truck and Air TV, which is the place to go on for all things new and old Monster Truck related. They just finished up at the 4-Wheel Jamboree, and again, awesome footage. Can't see what else they have. But we just got Larry Swim back, so let's go ahead and finish up with what he was saying right back there.
Hey, Larry.
Hi, it's me again.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, glad to have. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, so
I don't know
before
how much you heard, but
yeah, I don't know. I heard something about I have a nice ass, so we're just going to go with that.
it might have been you are an ass.
Well, either way, either you're right on both accounts.
Yeah, but
So-
no. Anyway, long story short, to be a part of that, thanks to Summit Racing Equipment, Bigfoot for allowing me to go, and thanks to the men and women in our armed forces, past, present, and future. Because without them, we wouldn't be on a podcast talking about monster trucks. So thank you to all of them.
Absolutely. Amen to that. So, all right. So we have a brand new segment that we are introducing with you on here tonight to end the
Oh,
show.
boy.
So, do you watch movies?
Do I watch what?
Movies.
Some.
Okay. So we have our little friend, Dave Too Tall Alford, who's now going to do our, I don't even know what the hell we're calling it, our Name That Movie. Dave is going to do a pre-recorded movie quote, and you have to tell us what movie it's
Oh, boy.
So, and feel free to have your wife, who's probably twice as smart as you, to help.
Well, at least twice.
Okay. All right, Mason, play the clip.
It's called Sex Panther by Odeon. It's illegal in 9 countries. 60% of the time, it works every time.
Do you know what movie that's from?
No.
No? All right. Well,
I
we're
can
not.
play it again, or I can tell you the answer. Maybe
Play it
there's
one more
one.
time.
Okay.
It's called Sex Panther by Odeon. It's illegal in 9 countries. 60% of the time, it works every time.
Dirty Dancing.
No.
No.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Good try, but no.
The next line was nobody puts baby in the corner.
I was,
Chrissy is on. She would have known that. It's not that.
It was
anyway,
Anchorman.
Anchorman. Oh, yeah, I never seen that.
Oh my God. Go watch a movie.
Well, you said a.
We don't watch dumb movies.
Oh my Lord. You just mentioned Dirty Dancing. That's like, and granted, great movie, amazing
But
movie.
you knew it.
I love
Anyway,
Dirty.
next video.
No, that's it. We're done. We're done.
Okay.
You failed miserably.
All right. Well, that's I get used to it.
Well, dude, I appreciate you coming on. It's been a blast for you and the wife. Tell her she can't wait to dance with me again.
Yeah, I'll tell her.
And I
In
can't
case
blame
you
her.
forgot.
I got moves like Jagger. And
You can dance.
Oh,
I know. I'm like Shakira. My hips don't lie. I want to thank you guys for coming on. It's been a blast, and hopefully we see you guys down the road at some point. But like I said, we will. You can get back at Dunk. I'm gonna have Dunk on here in a couple of weeks, so you can come on and ask him a bunch of.
make sure to let me know, because yes.
Yeah, you guys can come on and make him fest on a bunch of stuff.
Oh
so.
yeah. Yep.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very
And
much.
make sure and ask him. Make sure and ask him. And this is another Ron Duncan impression. Blair, when do the cops come? So ask him. Write that on your forehead too.
Running out of
You got Harris. You got room to write.
We're gonna shave all this off. I've been spending all quarantine trying to puff this out. It is not going away.
Me too.
You gotta take notes.
I guess I should have came
Uh,
back.
See, this is what happens when you get old. It grows out the wrong end, Mason.
Exactly.
I see.
Yeah.
Stupid gravity.
Yeah. Stupid stuff.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having us, guys. Like I said, it's been a pleasure. Thanks to all the fans through the years, sponsors, everybody at Bigfoot, and everybody listening. We'll see.
Yeah. They're not hiring you back. Quit kissing their ass.
What do you hire me? I'm going to steal a damn truck. I know how to start it.
All right, buddy. Well, I appreciate it. Y'all be safe.
All right. Everybody stay safe out there. See you guys. Don't forget them notes, Mason.
Hit the button.
Yeah, I did. At least Kelly Migas is supporting me and saying at least I have hair.
I got hair. It's just not in the cool places.
True.
Yeah.
Also true.
Got it in my ears and my nose. Yeah. Anyway, tell her to hush. But all right. So that'll do it for tonight. Join us this Sunday. We're going to do a little different Sunday night dinner table. We're actually going to have two announcers on this weekend. We're going to have Scott Heaton and Kenny Novinsky to talk about a little different. Rather than the driving aspect, we're going to talk about the guys who keep the fans entertained when the trucks are broke and all that. And I've been doing that for a little bit. And let me tell you, it's a lot harder than I thought it'd ever be. And these guys are way more talented at this than I am. So Sunday, 7 p.m. Central, Scott Heaton and Ken Novinsky. And then next Wednesday, I'm not going to let it out, but we're going to do something completely different. A complete off-the-wall episode that I think is going to be pretty damn cool and pretty damn interesting. But we'll talk about that Sunday. So with that said, Mason, that concludes our broadcast for the evening. Thank everybody for watching. Get on out of here.
Beautiful. Just beautiful.